All right, it is time for reading, reflection, wrap up, and stats. Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm super excited to be here today and to share with you this video. In this video, I will be looking back at my reading for the month of March and looking at my stats, looking at how I did on projects and challenges, sharing some of my favorites, all of those kinds of things. I separated out this video into 5 different sections. I will talk about my stats, then I will go into series versus standalone reading, then I will go into the projects and challenges and how I'm doing with that, and then I will look back at the month as a whole, and so reflect back on my TBR or what my focus of the month was, and then round things off with my favorites, which ends up being 5 or sometimes 6. I can't remember what it is this month, but it is in the realm of 5 to 6. I know these are longer videos, so I will provide jump links down below to the 5 different sections, as well as on the progress bar there will be a table of contents, so you can hover over if there's one section in particular that you would like to jump to right away. You are more than welcome. I know these are long ones. So as always, we start things off with stats. So in the month of March, I read 36 titles and a total of 6,438 pages, which is my best month so far of the year. Both January and February were around 4,000 pages. Keep in mind, a lot of this is shorter works, visual works, manga. It's all different kinds of works. My daily page average was 207 pages. My best day, I read 502 pages. Wow, over 500. That happens only a few times a year. And my lowest page day was 14 pages in a day. In terms of the breakdown by title, type, or length, I read 8 comic bind-ups, I read 3 graphic novels, I read 8 volumes of manga for a total of 19 visual works overall. I read 3 nonfiction titles, 1 short story, 1 play, 1 novella, 3 kids novels, and 2 adult novels. The average page length per title was 172, which is close to, it's less than my daily page count. Usually they are very closely aligned. That's because I read more titles this month. I'm trying to do this sort of like finish a title per day-ish, not per se, but like if the month has 30 days, I try and read 30 titles, and in February I fell short, so in March I caught up. I don't know why I'm doing it. I don't actually think it is helpful or something. I just, sometimes when I take on a challenge, I just stick with it out of habit, so I'm not sure if that, and I'm actually purposefully doing that in April. I don't know if it's helpful. I really don't. I don't know if I should try something else. But it's what I'm doing right now, so I'm just rolling with it until I decide not to, I guess. Okay, in terms of the genre breakdown, I read 1 sport title, 1 play, 1 nonfiction art book, 1 nonfiction general book, 1 literary fiction book. What was that? Oh, I remember now. No, I don't remember. I'm not sure. Sorry. That's horrible. I shouldn't do that. Okay. I read 1 fantasy title, 1 erotica title, 1 contemporary fiction, 2 nonfiction memoirs. Ooh, go me. 2 memoirs in a month. 2 mystery titles, 3 horror titles, 4 urban fantasies, 4 thrillers, 6 adventure titles, and 7 science fiction titles. I think that was a lot of manga. Battle Angel Alita. I'm working through that. So that's cyberpunk, which is I put under science fiction as a more general heading. Okay, let's look at the format breakdown by format. I read 1 audiobook. I read 2 trade paperbacks, 4 on Kindle, and 28 on tablets. And I actually, I don't have it quite handy. Most are on my Fire tablet. I read 21 on my Fire tablet, and I also inherited a larger tablet, which I'm calling my extra tablet. I don't know what it's called. Because it is really, really nice for reading graphic novels and comics. Especially I read all of Polar on that, and Polar is actually landscape, and because it's a larger tablet, it was really wonderful. Even though I felt lukewarm on Polar as a whole. It was made into the Netflix film with Mads Mikkelsen, but just to be able to see it in that format, and it's really like, it's only like it's like black and white plus 1 color, usually red, and So even though I didn't love the story, I just really enjoyed reading it for the sort of visualness and on the tablet, which is a fair amount larger, but not too much heavier, which has been really wonderful. So obviously I'm reading a lot on my tablet. 29 out of 36 were on my tablet. So I read a lot on my tablets. That's how I roll. Let's look at the ratings. So these are out of 10 because that's how I rate books. And I rated 1, 5.5 out of 10, 3, 6.5 out of 10, 6, 7 out of 10. One title I rated 7.25 out of 10. 7 titles were 7.5 out of 10. So that's the most out of any of the ratings. I read two of them. I rated 7.75 out of 10. 6 got an 8 out of 10, 5 titles got 8.5 out of 10, 2 titles got 9 out of 10, and 2 titles got 9.5 out of 10. So that is a fair amount of high-rated books or titles, and all of the 7.25s and the 7.75s, often I use those when I'm reading in series, and it's usually simply to indicate whether I liked it more or less than the last volume, so I have a sense overall if my enjoyment of a series is going up, down, or being even, especially with a longer manga series. I'd like to keep an eye on that because if it starts to continually drop, I feel like it might be time to switch gears. And so that's why I use some of the 0.25 stars. I also do that with book series as well. My average rating for this month was 7.69, which is slightly down from February, which was 7.84. Now let's look at some of the fun stats, which are some of the different things on, I don't know what the right term, this will make sense once I start doing it. I like including this. I'm going to look at some of the, I can't think of the right word, but like the shortest and the longest and the most rated and the least rated and those kinds of things. I find it really fun. So the shortest title that I read was Anti-Racist Baby by Ibram X. Kendi with illustrations by Ashley, Lukashevsky. Names and all of the titles with illustrators and translators and all of that good stuff will be down below. So this was the shortest title that I read in March, and it is 16 pages. It is a picture book. And the longest title I read was actually Astro Boy. It was a bind-up of books 1 and 2. It's by Osamu Tezuka, and the translation and introduction were by Frederik L. Scholz, I think, and it was 424 pages long. It actually did take me quite a while to read this. I got this, I think, I can't remember if I got it from the library or from Hoopla, and it was from the library, I think, and some of the sections or the stories were really, really long, and some of them were rather short, and it was a little bit hard to determine how long it was, so it was made the reading experience a little stop-start, because I always wanted to finish what I was reading, but sometimes the sections were really, really long, because it's a compilation of different stories, and I particularly liked the one, I think it was the second one, and there was something about the other character was like a hot dog robot or something, or a dog robot, but I think it was a hot dog core. Maybe it was a hot dog core, but there were dog robots. Oh my gosh, I really enjoyed that. Although I felt quite complicated about several of the different situations and the conflicts and stuff like that, but I really enjoyed it. And so, yeah, so Astro Boy was the longest title. Manga was my longest title this month. Who knew? The highest rated title, I put most rated. I don't think that's the case. The highest rated title I read for the month was Adventure Time Volume 7. So this is a bind-up of volume 30 to 34, I believe, and it had a rating of 4.42. The first one in this bind-up, which would be number 30, was quite different and very special, and it had a lot of guest illustrators, and it had more of a zine for it. It was like a zine format, and so I think that probably is what made it get all of the ratings, and I did enjoy it, and I am enjoying Adventure Time a fair amount. But I think that's the one. I think issue 30 was probably what tipped it over the edge, and it was really, really fun, and it followed Marcelzine, the vampire, And she's so awesome. And so, yeah, so I think that's probably what it tipped it over the edge. So I really enjoyed that. And then the least ratings went to, oh no, it was, no, the lowest rated. Lowest rated or least rated? The lowest rated. So yeah, so this is the highest rated. Adventure Time was the highest rated. And the lowest rated was actually Midnight Hour by Mary Robinette Kowal, which I'm not surprised at because it only had 2 ratings. So it got it has a 3 on Goodreads. I forgot to mention this is the ratings on Goodreads. And so it had a 3 on Goodreads and with 2 ratings. Both me and the one other person who rated it a 3. It didn't actually used to have its own entry on Goodreads, so I'm not surprised at that. This is a fantasy short story, and it's from the BookTube SFF shortlist from one of the earliest years, and I read it because I am reading through the entire BookTube SFF shortlist. Anything that's been shortlisted I want to read or give a shot to. So yeah, so those were the highest and least rated on Goodreads. Now for the most popular and least popular on Goodreads, the most popular was If Beale Street Could Talk by James Baldwin, this has been adapted to a film that came out a couple years ago, and the film actually just popped up on Netflix fairly recently here in Canada, so I'm really looking forward to this as an adaptation. It was a very, very emotional story, and it's shorter, it's like 150 pages, but it took me a fair amount of time to read just because it was so powerful and so had a lot of tough situations, and I did really enjoy it, or get a lot from it. Enjoy is hard when it's, there's a lot of racial injustice in this one, and it was really interesting also to see it was mostly from a woman's perspective, but it's written by a man. So it was just very interesting on all levels and very compelling. And I felt so much for the characters, and I'm looking forward to seeing the adaptation, hopefully very soon. So that got the most ratings at 37,184 ratings. So that was the highest rated. And the least rated was actually I'm the only person that has rated this book, and that is Irish Art Heritage from 2000 BC by Hilary Gilmore. This is and I'm not terribly surprised because this is from, I think, 83, and I find any book that is from the 80s and earlier, especially nonfiction, is not necessarily even on Goodreads. A lot of times I feel like they're works that are for schools and stuff like that. This one, not so much. This is more of a reference, and I actually really enjoyed reading it. Oh my god, look at all those patterns. So it was a very, very interesting read. But it was just me. I'm the only person who has read it on Goodreads, so that is really wild. And then the oldest book that I read in the month was Peer Gynt by Heinrich Ibsen. This actually, unfortunately, has been my least favorite Ibsen so far. It was really long. There were a lot of things that I was uncomfortable about. I think mostly some of the representation and stuff that's supposed to be humor is just stuff that we wouldn't do anymore. And to be fair, this is from 1867, so there's that. But it took me a long time to get through this one because I was just not. It was actually my lowest rated for the month. So and has been my least favorite of Ibsen so far. And I think the next one he sort of switches tones or themes or something, so I'm looking forward to that. And then in terms of newest rated, I did read 3 titles that were published in 2020, including More Myself by Alicia Keys, and this is a memoir I listened to on audiobook, and also Maya and the Rising Dark by Rita Barron. This is the first in the Maya and the Rising Dark series. I buddy read this with Izzy, Punk Rock Girl PA, and the live show is up on her site, or her channel, and Kate Kelly also read this with us, so that was really awesome. And also Anti-Racist Baby came out in 2020, so three books from last year. That's pretty good for me. Now we're going to look at series versus standalone. Out of the 36 titles that I read, 25 were books from series or titles from series, and 11 were standalone works. So this is 69% series versus 31% standalone, which is pretty average for me. Sometimes it's more series, but actually for this year, I think it's lower than normal, but I can't remember that off the top of my head. My stats spreadsheet is like, there's lots of variables on there. Anyway, I read a lot of series work. This is not really a surprise. Out of the 25 series works that I read, 11 were starting new series. Whoops. I read 13 works that continued series, and I caught up on one series, and that was All Out, which is the rugby manga that I have been recently reading, that I started for my A to Z manga challenge, and it was my pick for A. I'm actually considering this caught up because I'm caught up with what's available through the library. So volume 10 is the last one that I've read. It has 16 volumes, but I don't think all of them have been translated yet, and this is the last one that was available at my library. So I am considering myself caught up, even though that's a bit, I don't know, it might be a bit of a cheat, but for me, I have read all that is available to me, so that feels like caught up to me. So I think that is fair. So now on to projects and challenges. So I have 51 different projects and challenges that I'm working on this year. I added one in March because apparently 50 is not enough. I added translated works, which I hadn't separated out as an individual challenge because I read a lot of translated works simply from reading manga. But as one of the events this month was Translatathon, and I was working on my Translatathon TBR, it really, I felt it really honed into me that, reading translated works is important to me. And so that is something that I want to make sure I am doing. So I added translated work. So now I am at 51 challenges and projects throughout the year. Yay! So, and out of the 36 titles that I read this month, 18 of those 36 were for projects and challenges, which is half, which is actually lower than normal. Usually I read more like 60 to 70% of what I read is for projects and challenges. So I had a bit of, free for all this month and just reading whatever, which is also totally fine. Over the course of March, I met 37 challenges for the year, and that got me 4.47% closer to my overall goal, and I'm at 14.39% complete for the year. And that is a bit on track. I usually am at sort of around 5% per month. I know that doesn't total 100, and that's fine with me. I know that I am overshooting in terms of being able to finish things. I don't actually expect to finish all of the projects and challenges. The current total is 827 projects and challenges throughout the year. It was at 801, but then I added 26 for translated works. So yeah, and I'm actually not including manga as translated works. Not that it isn't translated, I count it as translated, but I read it so quickly that I feel like I want to get a sense of the translated works that I'm reading that aren't manga and to see how that feels. And then if I feel like I want to include manga, I can do that too. But I have my A to Z manga challenge, which I feel like is what how I am engaging with manga. So I feel like I'm covered with that. And then translated works, the 26 translated works that I'm going to try and read this month will be any other format. So I feel okay with that. In terms of month-specific challenges or projects or TBR focus, this month was actually all about the readathons. I actually participated in 4 different readathons, and I didn't create a monthly TBR. I mostly just created TBRs and worked on reading for the readathons. Some of the readathons were for the whole month, and some were for part of the month, and it was overwhelming, but I think I ended up doing pretty well. But 4 in a month, it's a lot. So first up was March of the Mammoths, and for that I picked Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. This is translated from the French by, I feel like I should have this memorized by now, by Christine Doniger. And so for the month of March, I read about 200 pages. I haven't actually even finished this first volume yet, but I hope to do that soon. The book is 1,304 pages long, the version I have. I didn't anticipate finishing in March. I feel very firmly centered in the work and very committed to continuing to read it. My goal was to read 20 minutes a day, 5 times a week, and I have mostly met that. Some weeks have been challenging and I only got 4 days in, but I still feel like very centered in it, and it is quite a challenging work, so I don't like reading more than that a day isn't very enjoyable. So I'm okay with that. So I'll be reading it probably till the end of the summer. So you'll be seeing a lot of it. So, but hopefully we'll see volume 2 soon. Hopefully we'll see volume 2. I'm still in book 1. So that was for March of the Mammoths, and it also counts for Translate-a-thon. And so next up is Translate-a-thon, which was hosted by Rhea, the book finch. And for Translate-a-thon, I finished 3 works and made progression on 2. Les Miserables, and also I progressed on, I was going to say that out of order. I also progressed on reading The Girl Who Played with Fire by Stig Larsson, and this is translated from the Swedish by Reg Keelan. This I started last year, and I just haven't been able to get back to it. It's one of the oldest books on my Goodreads TBR, but I did make progress through Translate-a-thon, so that was wonderful. The 2 finishes that I had were Black Sad. This is, I read the bind-up of volumes or comics, or just number 1, 2, and 3. This is by Juan Diaz Canales and illustrated by Juanito Guarnido. It'll be down below. The English translations are by Aretha Flores and Patricia Riviera. I'm not entirely sure if this is translated from the Spanish or from the French. The information that when I looked it up, it looks like it was the artist, I believe, is Spanish, or the writer is Spanish, but the publisher releases the French version first and then the Spanish version. So I'm not quite sure, and I did try and figure it out. It's not listed in the actual volume that I read, so it's probably Spanish to French to English. So, or maybe concurrently in Spanish and French and then to English. So, and it's a noir comics about a detective or private investigator, and it's pretty dark, and all of the characters are animals, and I really like that. I really like the animals, and it was quite an interesting read. So, and it is also kind of a March Mystery Madness title because it is following different crimes and investigations. So that was a really engaging read. I also finally read, this has been on my TBR for so long, I finally read The Devil's Apprentice by Kenneth A. Anderson. This is translated from the Danish by K.E. Semmel. This is the first in the Great Double War series. This is a kid's dark fantasy/horror type of situation where a kid ends up in hell and is slotted to be the devil's new apprentice. And so I really enjoyed this one. It was fabulous. So I read it for Translate-a-thon, and I just really, really enjoyed that one. And then I also read The Pledge by Friedrich Dürrenmatt, translated from the German by Joel Legee. And this was quite dark. It's a shorter title. It's 150 pages, which I don't know if people consider that more novella-y. But it is a take on mystery fiction. It's a bit of it's something that has a bit of a thing, and it's a bit of a response to. I'll leave a link to the Wikipedia article Wikipedia page down below if you want to learn more about this one. It was quite challenging, but I'm very, very happy that I ended up finishing it. And then as I mentioned already, I did make progress with The Girl Who Played with Fire. So that is 5 titles that I read from for Translate-a-thon, so I feel really, really good about that. Thank you so much to Rhea for hosting it. I did participate in one of the sprints, and I had a really good time with that, and it really centered with me that reading translated works is important to me. So that was so just valuable and helpful, and I'm really just glad that now it's on the docket for being something that that I want to be doing and engaged with all the time. And it's not like I didn't read translated works before, but sometimes when you have that moment where you realize it's helpful because then you can be more intentional in the future. So thank you, Rhea, for that. And then next up for March Mystery Madness, I have lots of crossover. Most of these, actually, Black Sad definitely is mystery. Well, it's noir, which I think is always thriller mystery. And then also, of course, The Pledge. This was definitely a thriller. I would classify this as a thriller, but it's also sort of a response to mystery, which is an interesting thing. There is a crime in this, and someone who is following it, and we hear the story in a unique way, and it was very engaging and interesting, and although it was much darker than what I normally read. Of course, The Girl Who Played with Fire is a thriller, so that works as well. And I also read the graphic novel of Clue. I feel like every year I end up reading a Clue type title for March Mystery Madness, and this was my one for this one. And this was a bind up of 6 issues of all in one, and so it followed the whole story, and it has some interesting and different takes on the different characters of Clue, and it has this sort of setup of, like a bunch of people at a house and something happens and investigation goes on. I have to say I didn't love it, but I felt like I couldn't follow the story, which is sometimes one of the challenges I find with mystery, is that I feel like when it's mystery, we as the reader should be able to figure it out, and I don't feel like there were enough clues to do that. I am also someone who doesn't read tons of mystery, so I am not the expert here, but I did enjoy the art and some of the characters, but some of the things that happened I was a little like, not sure about this, I'm not sure about that. So it wasn't it was an interesting read, but I still wasn't sure how I felt about it by the end of it, so that's a bit strange, but it is the way of it this time. And and I had a lot of fun participating in March Mystery Madness this year. As always, it's hosted and led Elizabeth from Lizzie Faye Loves Books leads the charge on this. There are so many hosts, and I know so many people that participate, and just even though I'm not much of a mystery reader, I always like participating because so many people I know are hosts, and it's just really fun to see what they're reading and just do my best to try and read mysteries even though I'm not very good at it. And I wanted to give a huge shout out to Janelle from Too Fond of Books, who did like daily videos, and I watched I think all of them, and I loved it so much. And she also did her M&M challenge of picking from M&Ms, and the colors indicated different prompts for people to find mysteries, and it was just amazing. I enjoyed it so much, and I also participated I think in 2 of the sprints live streams, and that really helped me out, especially with some of the darker titles, because I was resisting them, and the sprints were during the day, like on the weekend, which was really nice because I don't like reading like really dark stuff at night. So all of that was helpful. So thank you, Janelle, so much for all of those awesome videos and the sprints, and I enjoyed seeing so many people's like TBRs and their wrap-ups. It was so much fun. So I had a great time for March Mystery Madness. And then I also did very, very lightly participate in the Irish Readathon, for which I did read Irish Art Heritage, which is just 1 book, but I really enjoyed reading it. I've also already shown some of the images in it already, but it's a really interesting work, and I'm still not entirely sure, like, if it's a reference guide or if it's more outlining history, but it was a very, very engaging read, and I realized we don't really read, I don't read tons of books that have illustrations in them in terms of art, and so that was really interesting as well. So, I do, because I tend to buy art books, especially secondhand, which is where I got this one at Bookends, I'm sure. Yeah, it's got the sticker, so it's from Bookends, so that was really fun. So I just very, very lightly participated in the Irish Readathon, and that was really great. And so, yeah, the readathons really were the focus. So, as I mentioned, I think I did pretty well. I think I finished the title for everything except for March of the Mammoths, which I didn't anticipate finishing going in. So that ended up being okay. So so now we are on to my favorites of the month. Yay, 4 favorites. And so I did pick 6 this month. The first is Just a Geek by Will Wheaton, and it is unflinching, honest tales of the search for life, love, and fulfillment beyond the Starship Enterprise. Will Wheaton, of course, played Wesley Crusher on Star Trek The Next Generation, and this is a really interesting memoir. He got into the world of blogging around, early 2000s? 2001. Wow, that is really early for blogging. And it took me a little while to get into this one, and I did try this many years ago, and I misinterpreted one of the early comments as his thought, but it was actually something his friend said, and something his friend said jokingly, and so that kind of threw me off. So it took me years to come back to it, but I really appreciated it, and he is really honest about the things, the choices he made, how they impacted him, how and why that still sits with him, and, working through, like, making change, breaking through that, breaking into new things, the things that are important to him now, the voices that you have, like, that are discouraging and stuff, which is just, it's one of those things that it is extraordinary to think of someone who has had so much success still feel like that, still feel impacted by those things. And it's just like, wow, we really are like all humans do experience this. Anyway, so I'm totally off topic. I realized I don't think I ended up talking about this one after I finished it. So yeah, but I am really, really glad that I stuck it out, because, and I found there was a turning point as well where, because he can also be, well, it's unflinching, and that's not usually the tone that I go for, especially for memoirs, but I'm just really glad that I stuck with it. I thought it was really great and insightful and honest, and there, and I just really enjoyed it. So it is one of my favorites of the month. My next favorite of the month probably will not be any surprise, and that is Maya and the Rising Dark by Rena Barron. This is a middle grade urban fantasy story that was so much fun. I definitely recommend checking out the book as well as the live show that Izzy did. This is just, I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, magic, own voices. It's just great. Really, really great. So I love Maya and the Rising Dark. I'm looking forward to book 2, which I think comes out in September. Next up, Hamster Princess Volume 2 of Mice and Magic by Ursula Vernon. I love this series. Ursula Vernon also wrote the Dragon Breath series, which I read last year and loved. This is about a hamster princess, and she is just so awesome. She is so awesome. Highly recommend this one. Also, a favorite was The Devil's Apprentice by Kenneth B. Anderson. This one I could only find one of the covers in English. Anyway, so this I've already talked about this one before several times. I loved it so much. I am really sad because I don't know if I'll be able to access the other books in ebook format, but they are on audio on Scribd, so I might try audio. I don't do well with audio with fiction, but I might be able to do it if I reread the first one. So, but I'm really enjoying that, and that's the first in the Great Double War series. Also a favorite, Super Narwhal and Jelly Jolt. This is the second book in the Narwhal series by Ben Clanton. Obviously, a bit of a theme. There's a lot of kids' books here. This was so much fun. Narwhal and Jelly, I just love them so much. But my favorite of the month was Hamster Princess, number 1, Harriet the Invincible by Ursula Vernon. I loved this book so much. Harriet is such a great character. She is such a strong female character, and I just loved her. She was so adventurous and, excited about the world, and just learned about things and ran into things and would not take things, would not be discouraged about things, and I just loved her so much. So Harriet the Invincible was my favorite. So that was that, and so that was March. This is a long video. I know these ones are long, but I guess I had a lot to say. I also didn't do Friday reads for 2 weeks, so I think some of these books ended up finishing, but I didn't get a chance to talk about them. So I got a little chatty on those ones. Overall, I do think that it was actually a pretty good month, which I'm a little surprised at, but it's because I think participating in all those readathons got me so, in the moment that it was harder to see the bigger picture. So when I did do the zoom out, I'm looking at my stats and looking at my favorites and looking at where I made progress, I was like, oh, yeah, did pretty good, which is why I think reflection is a really good thing, because it is so helpful for those moments. So that's how my month of March went. Let me know how your March went. Maybe let me know what your favorite was. Did you add any new goals for the year like I did? Yes, let's read 26 translated works. I think I read at least 4, maybe more. I don't know. More goals. I'm sure I will add. I always add some more in the summer. I know I will. It's just the way I do things, which is why I don't sweat the fact that I only do 5% a month. It's totally fine. It'll be fine. It's all good. I think there are lots of good reads this month, and hopefully there will be next month as well. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I will be back soon with another video. Take care.